Let's talk about something for a second. Imagine a police force that stops crime before it even has a chance to happen, not just reacting to it, but actually preventing it. Well, today we're diving into a case study about how one police officer in Pakistan made that a reality, using a strategy so effective it was actually named after her, the Gulnaz method.
I mean, that's a huge shift in thinking, right? For, centuries, policing has pretty much been about showing up after something bad has happened. But what if we flipped that whole model on its head? What if the goal wasn't just about catching criminals, but about creating a community where crime just can't find a foothold to begin with?
So this story takes us to Punjab, Pakistan, where one woman, Station House Officer Gulnaz, decided she'd had enough of the old way. When she took charge of her precinct, she wasn't just interested in the same old cycle of chase and arrest. Nope. She was on a mission to build a fortress of safety around her community with one single powerful goal: stop crime before it ever starts.
And this right here, this quote, is basically the core of her entire philosophy. It's not about waiting for the fire alarm to go off. It's about making sure the conditions for a fire never exist in the first place. This simple, proactive idea, it's the foundation for everything that follows. And believe me, it changed everything.
Okay, so you have this big, bold idea, but how do you actually make it work on the streets? Well, for Gulnaz, it all started with something that sounds simple but is incredibly powerful: visibility. Let's break down her first major strategy, which was all about turning the police presence itself into a deterrent.
Now, this wasn't just about throwing more police cars out there and hoping for the best. It was a really smart three-part strategy. So first up, they seriously increased patrolling, day and night, making it impossible not to see them. Then, they used data to pinpoint the exact crime hotspots, basically turning those areas into no-go zones for criminals. And finally, they broke their entire jurisdiction down into smaller, more manageable sectors. This gave each patrol unit a real sense of ownership over their little piece of the community.
And here's the psychology behind it, which is actually pretty brilliant. The core belief was that the thing that really stops a criminal isn't the thought of punishment way down the line, it's the immediate fear of getting caught. By making the police a constant, visible, and intelligent presence, they created an environment where criminals felt like they were always being watched. It's just squeezed the opportunity for crime right out of the equation.
All right, so being visible is a huge piece of the puzzle. But it's only half the battle, you know? To really prevent crime, you have to see what's happening behind the scenes, in the shadows. And that brings us to the second pillar of her strategy: intelligence. This was all about knowing your neighborhood even better than the criminals do.
This is where things get really, really clever. Her team blanketed critical locations with CCTV cameras, effectively turning street corners and marketplaces into witnesses that were always on. They made it way harder for people to hide in plain sight by strictly enforcing tenant registration. And they went after that anonymity that criminals love by verifying the identities of every single person working in or staying at local hotels and guest houses. All of a sudden, there was nowhere left to hide.
Look, you can have all the cameras and all the patrols you want, but they'll never replace the single most powerful tool against crime: the community itself. And this is where SHO Gulnaz's strategy truly becomes something special. Let's get into how she built a bridge of trust between the police and the people, turning them into real partners.
Now, this number you see, 15, that's the police emergency line in Punjab. For most of us, calling a number like that means talking to a dispatcher, and you just hope they send someone quickly. But in SHO Gulnaz's district, get this, she often picked up the phone or went to the scene herself. Can you just imagine the message that sends when the person in charge shows up at your door?
And this wasn't just a PR stunt. It was a fundamental change in how they did things. She was out there walking the beat, but not just a patrol. She was actually talking with shopkeepers, listening to what they were worried about, and giving them real advice on safety. She treated the community not as a problem to be managed, but as a partner in creating a safer future. And that personal touch, it transformed fear into trust, and silence into real cooperation.
Okay, so we've got visibility, we've got intelligence, we've got community trust. It all sounds great on paper, right? But the real question is, did any of it actually work? Did it make a real difference? Well, the results, they pretty much speak for themselves, and they're nothing short of remarkable.
I mean, the impact was just huge. The property crime that had been hounding the community for years, it dropped fast. Public confidence in the police, which had been in the gutter, shot way up. And most importantly, that relationship between citizens and police completely transformed. People who used to be wary were suddenly active partners in keeping their own neighborhoods safe. That's the direct result of a leader who chose partnership over power.
And this quote, it just sums up the whole thing perfectly, doesn't it? It's this profound idea that real strength in policing doesn't come from the power of a uniform or the threat of force. It comes from earning the community's trust, from a genuine desire to serve, and from being smart enough to stop problems before they can even begin.
When you really look at it, the Gulnaz method is a powerful reminder that there's another way to think about public safety. It's a model built on trust, not fear, on prevention, not just punishment. So the real question it leaves us with is, what can we learn from this? And what could our own communities look like if we decided to follow her lead?